Okay, a very good afternoon to everybody. Today with us we have a very eminent speaker, Dr. J. Timashetty sir, Professor and Head Department of Pharmaceutics, Bapuji Pharmacy College, Davangere. So I request S.K. Nimbar sir to introduce the guest to all of us.
Thank you, madam. So good afternoon to one and all. Myself, Dr. S.K. Nimbal, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce today's resource person, Dr. J. Timashetty sir. Sir is presently working as a professor and HOD, Bapuji Pharmacy College, Davangere, with a total teaching experience more than 27 years. Sir studied B Pharma from National College of Pharmacy, Shimoga in 1993, securing 7th rank from Mysore University. Obtained a master's in pharmaceutical technology from VL College of Pharmacy, Raichur in the year 1995, securing first rank, that is gold medal from Gulbarga University. And obtained PhD from Vinayaka Mission University, Salem in 2010. Sir has authored 52 publications in national as well as international journals and presented 28 posters in the conference, including IPC, Apticon, and Capticon. He is a co-author of 10 popular books for pharmacy-related subjects published by Vallabha Prakashan and is been involved in writing a couple of books. Sir is a reviewer of 5 journals and is also an editorial board member of RJPS, an official pharmacy journal of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science, Karnataka. He is also an evaluator of M-Pharma synopsis and UG research proposals of RGHS. Sir has guided 37 master's theses. Sir has reviewed and evaluated PhD theses of Manipal University, Saurashtra University, Kangaram University, and Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. Sir's thirst area research extended for 8 MSc projects of Coimbatore University and 6 MDS projects of Rajiv Gandhi University. Sir received 9 grants from different funding agencies. He served as a KSPC inspector and RGHS inspector. Sir is a BOS member for B Pharma and PharmD. Sir was appointed as a member of B Pharma and M Pharma syllabus revising committee of RGHS Bangalore. He also served as a RGHS flying squad to inspect postgraduate examination centers. Sir is a member of APTI and KSPC. Sir, he served as an examiner for all the levels of the pharmacy courses in various universities. He had also set the question papers for several universities. Sir was honored as a posters evaluator in conferences held at Gujarat Technological University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat in 2015, Apticon in 2016, and Capticon in 2018, and in NET Pharmacy College, Raichur in October 2018, and finally Krupakan Pharma 2021. Sir had presented 20 guest lectures, and Sir enjoys Google citations of 547 till date with H index 12 and I10 index 12. With this brief introduction, once again I welcome Dr. J. Timashetty sir. Sir, start your presentation, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, sir, for nice introduction. Hello.
Hello, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay, madam. Okay. I'm given the topic spring and parachute approaches in product development. I understand that many of the participants of this program are pharmaceutics people, and we, the pharmaceutics people, are involved in the formulation development. The development of effective formulation approaches to facilitate oral absorption of poorly water-soluble drugs is a considerable challenge. Formulation development of poorly water-soluble compounds continues to be a great challenge due to their intrinsically low solubility and poor oral absorption. To increase the solubility of the drug substance, To increase the absorption of the drug substance, efforts are revolving around in increasing the equilibrium solubility or increasing the rate of dissolution. With the pharmaceutics people, whatever the drug is given to us, we try to develop the formulation in such a manner that either its solubility is increased or the rate of dissolution is increased. So the technologies adopted for this purpose are solid dispersions, lipid-based formulations, micro suspensions, nano suspensions, etc. But attention has shifted with the realization that increase in the intestinal solubilization may only need to be fleeting, especially for highly permeable molecules, and therefore that maintenance of temporary supersaturation may be sufficient to promote absorption. We realized that mere increase in the solubility or mere increase in the dissolution will not sufficiently increase absorption and bioavailability. It is understood that there something is going on which is decreasing the absorption and thereby bioavailability decreases. And therefore, focus is shifted from increasing the solubility, increasing the dissolution to maintain supersaturation. So formulations creating supersaturations are called supersaturable formulations. Supersaturation occurs when basic drugs are readily ionized in the acidic environment of the stomach and therefore not a problem. On emptying of the stomach, certain drugs are dissolved in the stomach, and when gastric emptying is done, they move to the intestine, and there the pH changes, supersaturation is created. A state of supersaturation is formed relative to the equilibrium solubility of the drug in intestinal fluids. When does it happen? See, the formulation, when the formulation is diluted or mixed with the solvent in which the drug is not soluble, but solvent is visible. Secondly, on dissolution of the solid dispersion formulations containing high energy crystal forms, and on dispersion or digestion of certain lipid-based formulations where the dispersed or digested components have reduced solubilization capacity. So in all these situations, supersaturation develops. But after supersaturation, since drugs are thermodynamically unstable at high concentrations, they have a tendency to precipitate rapidly in vivo before being absorbed, resulting in compromised bioavailability. Supersaturation is formed even inside the GIT, but mere supersaturation will not allow the drug to remain in the same state. That supersaturation is a thermodynamically unstable state. The molecules present in the supersaturated condition tend to undergo precipitation. Once if they undergo precipitation, they are not available for absorption, which leads to impaired bioavailability. Therefore, while designing the supersaturable formulations, it is essential to maintain drugs in the supersaturated concentrations in vivo by preventing drug precipitation before absorption. So now it is our challenging task. We, the pharmaceutics people, must have to prepare the formulation in such a manner that supersaturated concentration is maintained in vivo and will undergo absorption. By preventing precipitation, it facilitates absorption. So answer for all these problems is supersaturable formulations, which are called SDDS. Supersaturable formulations are able to induce a supersaturated drug concentration when exposed to the aqueous environment of the GIT. And this supersaturation must be generated and maintained for desired time. If the supersaturated solution is in the GIT for sufficient period, both in the stomach as well as in the intestine, so the drug is in the solution form, drug is available for absorption, it undergoes absorption and it gives sufficient bioavailability. But the performance of SDDS depends on processing techniques, physicochemical properties, tendency to form supersaturated solution, and maintenance of supersaturated solution. So in this presentation, we are studying what is supersaturation and what are the different factors involved in preparing supersaturable dosage forms and other details. The concept is known as spring and parachute approach. So where the spring A refers to a process or technique of generating thermodynamically unstable supersaturated solution of a drug from high energy form is called spring. Spring, in a simple way to say, solubility enhancement. Tremendous increase, enormous increase in the solubility of the drug is referred to spring. And this spring can be obtained in two ways. Number one, from highly concentrated solution form. As we know, there are co-solvent systems, lipid-based formulations, sets, SNETs. The other option is high energy and are rapidly dissolving solid forms. Examples, amorphous forms, nanoparticles, crystalline forms, and co-crystals. So all these together can be called as spring. These methods, these techniques, these processes increase the solubility of the drug substance enormously, which is called spring. And what is parachute? What is parachute? The process of maintaining supersaturation for an extended period of time using precipitation inhibitors for increasing absorption is called parachute. So a supersaturated solution is formed from spring effect, no doubt. But that supersaturated solution will not remain in the same state, will undergo precipitation. But that we don't want. So that supersaturation should remain in the GIT for an extended period of time. So which is normally not possible, and therefore precipitation inhibitors are added to maintain the supersaturation for increasing the absorption. This effect is called parachute effect. It can be achieved by adding precipitation inhibitors like polymers, surfactants, and cyclodextrins. See, once the supersaturation has been induced, drug molecules have the tendency to precipitate through processes which may be kinetically or thermodynamically controlled. In order to benefit from supersaturated state, the increased concentrations have to be maintained for a time sufficient for absorption. This may require a temporary inhibition of precipitation through the use of pharmaceutical excipients like polymers, surfactants, and cyclodextrins, which prevent either nucleation or crystal growth or both. So this is the schematic representation of spring and parachute effect. See here, this line represents the horizontal line, which is parallel to the x-axis, represents equilibrium solubility of the drug when is taken in its crystalline form. So this is the minimum solubility that is exerted by the drug under normal conditions. But the drug solubility should be enhanced by any one of the spring effects which I have explained. So by spring effect, its solubility will increase maximum and gives supersaturated solution. So under this condition, now the drug is in the solution form. Now the drug molecules are present. If left as it is, then these molecules, they tend to undergo crystal growth. So crystallization will take place once the crystal is formed. So once the solid is formed, that solid is not available for absorption, it gets precipitated out. So the drug is not available and it will not give any bioavailability at all. So to prevent, now our efforts are to prevent this crystallization, this precipitation. Precipitation should be prevented by adding PPIs, precipitation inhibitors. They are called parachutes. So when the parachutes are added, the supersaturated level is maintained for long period, sufficiently long period, so that drug absorption takes place. This is the representation how the precipitation takes place. Now, when the drug is present in the solution form, and because of the conditions that are created, it gets precipitated either in the amorphous form or in the crystalline form. If it is precipitated in the amorphous form, it is quickly soluble in the water. It gives a spring effect. But if it is precipitated in the crystalline form, it follows this path. See, it is in the supersaturated solution where the monomers are present, but because of the diffusion of the molecules, they collide with one another, they impact with one another, clusters are formed, and further these clusters join together to give embryos. Embryos will finally lead to the formation of nuclei. So many such nuclei will form, and the nuclei now will be the centers for the growth of the crystal. So crystal lattice will form, and the deposition takes place on the crystal lattice, and finally crystal will form. So once the crystal will form, it gets detached from the solution, which is not available for absorption. The absorption can be, now the entire process can be understood from the theory, a simple theory called, which can be assessed in the context of Fick's law, where flux of the drug through the gastrointestinal wall depends on the permeability coefficient of the gastrointestinal barrier for the drug and the drug concentration in the GI lumen. So J, flux of a drug, so it depends on P and C. P is the permeability coefficient of the GI barrier for the drug, and C is the drug concentration in the GI lumen. This relation is the basis to classify the drugs in the BCS according to permeability and solubility criteria. So we know this is the BCS classification system where the drugs are classified into class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4 drugs. Class 1 drugs are problematic drugs. They have low solubility and high permeability. Now, our focus is on improving permeability of the class 2 drugs. Now, the degree of supersaturation is the factor that we need to understand here. For SDDS, the degree of supersaturation is the driving force of the drug precipitation, and higher the degree of supersaturation, easier the precipitation. The degree of the supersaturation is expressed by supersaturation ratio, where S is equivalent to C by CEQ. C is drug concentration in the GI lumen. CEQ is equilibrium solubility. Now, supersaturation ratio, if it is less than 1, then it is called unsaturated solution. If it is equal to 1, it is called saturated solution. If it is more than 1, then it is called supersaturated solution. So now our drug should always exist in supersaturated solution where supersaturation ratio should be more than 1. A supersaturated solution exists in a metastable state in the GI lumen, gastrointestinal lumen, for a time period sufficient for absorption. The increased intraluminal drug concentration can result in enhanced flux across the intestinal wall. So at the intestinal wall, if the drug concentration is more, then more absorption will take place. It completely depends on what is the concentration of the drug that is present across the intestinal wall. More the saturation, more the permeability. Lesser the saturation, lesser the permeability. Drug in the supersaturated solution form, more absorption. Drug undergoing precipitation, then absorption rate decreases. We have to understand all this, and therefore we have to study how exactly the supersaturation takes place, which is called supersaturation assay. And these supersaturation assays are performed for spring, that is for supersaturated solution. So studying supersaturation in vitro requires a determination of the drug concentration in the test medium as a function of time after introducing a spring form of the drug. See, before I continue, let me say you, very few articles are reported on this topic, and therefore we need to explore more, we need to study more, we need to work more, and we see so that this knowledge on this topic can be publicized so as to reach to the people working in this area. Now, the spring might be high energy formulation of the drug or highly concentrated solution in an organic solvent. When we carry out the supersaturation, weakly basic drugs can also be dissolved in the acidic medium, thereby simulating dissolution in the acidic environment of the stomach before entering the intestine with increased pH. So when we carry out this assay, what is the medium that we have to select is important. So to mimic the stomach condition, acidic medium, we have to maintain the pH of the medium between 1 and 2. And also the other media which are reported in the literature used for the supersaturation assays include Hello. Hello. Madam, shall I continue? There was some problem.
Yeah, there was issue in internet. It was disconnected. You can continue.
Okay, madam. No problem. Yes. Okay. See, to carry out this supersaturation assay, we should select a proper medium. So the medium selected should mimic the in vivo conditions. So the medium could be acidic medium which maintain the pH 1 to 2, or simulated gastric fluid, simulated intestinal fluid, and even we have to take biorelevant medium like fasted state simulated gastric fluid, fed state simulated gastric fluid, fasted state simulated intestinal fluid, and fed state simulated intestinal fluid. And when we carry out supersaturation, we create supersaturation by adding excipients, and during assay, we can add excipients either in the formulation or in the test medium. And many factors will influence when we carry out the supersaturation, like composition of the test medium, presence of excipients, alteration in composition as a function of time, and influence of the co-solvent. We should remember these factors. We have to control all these factors when we carry out the supersaturation. Okay, when we carry out the supersaturation, then we study how exactly the supersaturation is created. The details I'll explain in the next slides. Now, at this moment, we shall understand what are precipitation inhibitors. Precipitation inhibitors inhibit precipitation to maintain highly supersaturated state of the drug in vivo for an extended period for optimal absorption. So these PPIs decrease precipitation in a simple manner. And there are the different types of the PPIs. They are polymers, cyclodextrins, and surfactants. So polymers which are reported are HPMC of the different grades, PVP of the different grades are tested on all these drugs. Cyclodextrins are also tested. Surfactants like PTGS, pluronic F127, Cremo4 are also tested. These precipitation inhibitors inhibit the precipitation, keeping the drug solution in the supersaturated state for long period. Then, what are the mechanisms by which precipitation PPIs work? There are the different mechanisms. Number one, reducing the degree of supersaturation by increasing the solubility. They decrease the level of supersaturation for the drug by increasing the solubility. Number one. Number two, it increases the viscosity, resulting in a reduced molecular mobility and diffusion coefficient. So because the viscosity increases in the presence of the polymer, so mobility decreases and therefore diffusion decreases, and therefore nucleation decreases, crystal growth decreases. The third mechanism could be changing the adsorption layer at the crystal medium interface by For example, adsorbing onto the crystal surface, thereby hindering crystal growth. This may be accompanied with crystal habit modifications. Usually, crystal growth takes place in a particular crystal lattice form. So after formation of the crystal lattice, this polymer, if at all deposits on the crystal lattice, it alters the crystal lattice. So crystal cannot grow further the way it was expected. So this is another mechanism that could be explained for precipitation inhibition. Obviously, these mechanisms depend on the properties of the inhibitor, drug, and the medium. Okay, precipitation inhibition measurement. It can be assessed by determining the induction time for precipitation or monitoring the concentration time profile upon generation of supersaturation. See, that means to say what is the time required to initiate the precipitation. This is one way that we can measure. And the second way, prepare a supersaturated solution and determine how much of the drug is present still in the solution form for a given period of time. So by measuring this, we can go for precipitation inhibition measurement. Let us take an example one by one. HPMC is the polymer which is widely used as a PPI, but HPMC of the different grades are available. They are used as a PPI. This HPMC contains a large number of the hydroxyl functional groups. Hydrogen bonds between drug molecules on the polymer were confirmed by means of infrared spectroscopy, which increases the activation energy of nucleation. If you observe the structure of the HPMC, then it has got such functional groups which can develop the hydrogen bonds. In addition, to form hydrogen bond enables this polymer to adsorb onto the crystal surface. Adsorb molecules hinder incorporation of the drug molecules into the crystal lattice and crystal growth decreases. Drug precipitates were identified as a crystalline in absence of HPMC, but amorphous when HPMC was present. See, how exactly to know whether HPMC affected or not? See, take a solution and subject it to the precipitation without HPMC and with HPMC. So without HPMC, the product obtained was crystalline, and with HPMC, the product obtained was not crystalline. It was something else than the pure drug. So with this, we can understand that yes, HPMC is interfering in the precipitation process. Then PVP is the other polymer that can also be used as PPI, and this PVP is used at a very low concentration of 0.01% W by W to significantly decrease the crystallization process. And experiments were performed to discriminate between effects of PVP on crystal nucleation and crystal growth that I will show you in the slides to come. It was shown that polymer adsorption onto the going crystal affected the surface integration kinetics and slowed the crystal growth rate. So with the PVP, nucleation rate was not that affected much, presumably due to the fact that PVP did not adsorb to the individual molecules or very small molecules. Then role of solubility parameter. See, solubility parameter is another property of either drug or excipient. So it explains what is the hydrophobicity and is found to be important in the selection of the polymer for development of supersaturated drug delivery system. And it characterizes relative hydrophobicity of the polymer and the drug. If a solubility parameter between polymer and the drug is narrow, small, then the polymer is found to be a very good crystal growth inhibitor. And this property of the solubility parameter can be determined by different methods. Even theoretical methods are available and practical methods are also available. So theoretical methods like group contribution methods are available, which are given widely in the literature. See, Fedor's group contribution method, Hoy's group contribution method, Van Crevillon method, Hansen method, Hildebrand method. These are the different methods available to calculate the solubility parameter of the drug and excipient. It is not only for polymer, even for any other excipient. So the procedures are given with which we can calculate the solubility parameter. Now, after calculating the solubility parameter for the drug and also solubility parameter for the polymer, now we can decide whether this is a polymer is best suited for the drug or not. So how to decide the suitability of the polymer to the drug? If the difference in the solubility parameter of the drug and polymer is less, then it is suitable. That means to say the excipient or the polymer is more friendly to the drug. It is very nearer to the drug, and therefore it will not allow the drug to come out very easily. And therefore, the presence of that type of the excipient will prolong the precipitation, will prolong the supersaturation. I'll show you an example of a drug which is subjected to the dissolution profile in its pure form and also in the formulation, in the form of formulation in presence of the HPMC. See, this figure represents the dissolution of the drug when HPMC is absent and also in the presence of HPMC. So for the purpose, the different ratios of HPMC are selected: 5:1, 10:1, and 20:1. So when the dissolution is studied, see here, if there is an increase in the dissolution, afterwards, it could not maintain the dissolution. It has undergone precipitation, and therefore we can see that available drug in this line. So it represents the dissolution of the drug when HPMC was absent. See here, 200 mg dose was taken and 500 ml medium was selected, subjected to the dissolution study. So in the absence of HPMC, it has given 0.04 mg per ml of the solution. However, in the presence of HPMC, you see the trends. All these trends are overlapping, and finally they have given, and the solution concentration obtained was 0.4 mg per ml, 10 times increase in the solubility. So the drug is in the solubility state 10 times more in presence of HPMC when compared to the same drug in the absence of HPMC. So there, from this we can understand that HPMC is maintaining the drug in the solution state for long period. Now coming to the ratio, 5:1, 10:1, 20:1. Though different ratios of the polymer is taken, but the difference is not seen very clearly. So that could be because over the range of the HPMC, above the threshold dose, concentration of the HPMC was taken, and therefore not much of the difference is noticed when the different ratios of the HPMC are taken for this drug. It is the behavior of the drug in its pure state. Now, the same drug is converted into the formulation, and in this formulation, along with the drug, so many other excipients are present, but HPMC is also present. Now, in earlier studies, we have taken the different proportions. Now, we fixed, for this experiment, we fixed it as 10:1 dose. 10:1 dose concentration is taken, and different media are selected: pH 2, pH 4, pH 6.8. And when only drug is taken here, it's no HPMC. HPMC is not present, and it is conducted in pH 4. And as usually, without HPMC, the drug concentration was 0.04 mg per ml. But in presence of the HPMC, see, you can see the trends. So the trends show that it has undergone the dissolution, and the concentration of the drug is now 0.2 mg per ml. So 20 times more. So 20 times more, the concentration is present in the presence of the HPMC. And now here, if you closely observe, there is no much of the difference in the pH, the role of the pH in maintaining this supersaturated condition. Then Coming to effective precipitation, effective PPI. Okay. When we have so many PPI, we have to decide which PPI is good, which precipitation inhibitor is good. So for this experiment here, so the different polymers were taken, and they are one surfactant is also taken. Soluplus, it is a polymeric surfactant, and HPMCAS of the 3 different grades are taken, and HPMC plane was also taken. If you observe this graph, we can understand that Soluplus is showing more AUC when compared to the remaining. And the second one is HPMCAM. See, inverted triangle, the second one. The highest is Soluplus, and the second one is this one. And the remaining are shown here, and the bottommost line represents the concentration of the drug when polymer is not present. So when the polymer is not present, it is no more in the solution state, it has undergone precipitation, but remaining all, they have showing the higher trends when compared to the one without polymer. Amongst these, Soluplus was the best, and the next best is HPMCAS M grade. So from this, we understand that Soluplus is best, but now we cannot come to a conclusion now, because this study was carried out in the phosphate buffer, but the study was also repeated in biorelevant medium in fast state simulated intestinal fluid, and the same drug, same concentration, everything is same, only the difference is medium. When it is carried out, the trends are different. Now, so you can observe here, Soluplus has come down. Now, the top one is HPMCAS M grade. HPMC M grade. So, when Soluplus was added, let me go back. When Soluplus was added to the phosphate buffer, higher AUC was achieved when compared to the medium without other, when compared to the medium with other polymers. So the better effectiveness demonstrated by Soluplus in phosphate buffer, which can be attributed to drug micellar solubilization, because Soluplus is a micellar polymeric surfactant. HPMCAS-M demonstrated the best drug anti-precipitant ability among the different types of LMH used. Fine. Now, when we come to the fasted state simulated intestinal fluid, Soluplus solubilizing effect of the drug was drastically decreased in the biorelevant medium. Some studies have, that is because some studies have reported that interaction between Soluplus PEG repeating units, protons, and negative charge of SLS. This is the reported example. And because of the interaction between PEG reporting unit, protons, and the negative charge of SLS, the complex will form. This complex either increase or decrease poorly soluble drugs dissolution. Now, lecithin and sodium tarocolate. This is present in the medium, and they have got amphiphilic structures comparable to the SLS that can interact with the Soluplus in the same manner. And because of this interaction, there is a decrease in the effect that is seen here. So, if you keep them the both, now which is the best PPI? So that can be decided. See now, if you observe this, the second best is HPMCAS-M, and in this, the best is HPMCAS-M. So though Soluplus has shown highest solubility in the phosphate buffer, but we have to mimic the in vivo conditions. So to mimic the in vivo conditions, biorelevant medium was selected and was subjected to the test. When it was tested, Soluplus no more remained in the first place, but HPMCAS-M remained in the top place. So from this study, we can understand that HPMCAS M grade has got a very good precipitation inhibition effect for this drug. And let me mention here the interaction between the drug and polymer. Polymer as a PPI particularly, it is case dependent. It is a case dependent. So every time for every drug with every polymer, study should be conducted. Studies should be conducted because I'll show you the examples how the results are differing from one to another. And this type of the study was also carried out when the different concentrations were taken, and as the concentration of the HPMC was increased, precipitation inhibition was also increased. And such type of the trends were also observed with hydroxypropyl cellulose and PVP. And remember, it may not be same always. See now, this is another example where an experimental compound was subjected to the study in the absence of the polymer and in the different concentrations of the polymer. So with the increase in the concentrations of the polymer, as the concentration was increased, precipitation inhibition was also increased, which is again the similar, which may not be true in all the cases. Then effect of polymer concentration on danazole precipitation. Here danazole is the drug, and the different polymers tested were Udrazit L100, gum arabic, HPMC E4M. So the three polymers were taken, danazole drug is taken, same concentration of the drug, supersaturated solution was created, and these three polymers were added. And every polymer is added in two concentration. One is low concentration, the other one is high concentration. So the low concentration of 0.1% and low concentration of 0.001% and high concentration of 0.1%. So now the first case, we shall see the first one. So the presence of the Udrazit introduced a lag phase in the beginning to start the precipitation process that was concentration dependent. At low concentration at 0.001. See, it represents low concentration and a continuous line represents the high concentration. At 0.001% concentration, the lag phase lasted up to 420 seconds and was pushed up to 3,100 seconds. Here, so when the concentration was increased to 0.1%, so with 0.001, the lag phase was different, and with 0.1%, the lag phase was different. After this lag phase, the precipitation rate at both the concentration proceeded at a higher rate than in the absence of the polymer. So Udrazit L100 appeared to inhibit the nucleation process, but once that barrier is crossed, then crystal growth takes place very fast as if the polymer is absent. Then coming to the second polymer, gum arabic. Gum arabic precipitation profile exhibited no effect on the precipitation process at low concentration. You see here, it is the same line. However, after 600 seconds, it is taken in the seconds, and this danazole precipitate and the polymer flocculated such that the turbidity measurement was no longer valid. Actually, this study was carried out in the nephelometry. The solutions were taken in the sample, and what is the turbidity that was obtained, that was recorded. So the time was taken on x-axis, and the signal was recorded on the y-axis. See now, coming to the third polymer, HPMC, and here HPMC was taken in the two concentrations. Here, the concentration difference was not that much on the precipitation of the danazole. So from this study, we can understand that the three different polymers affect in three different ways, and some polymers affect the effect of one polymer will be different at two different concentrations, which is not similar to the gum arabic, which is not similar to the HPMC. So therefore, we have to carefully select the polymer, and we have to carefully select the concentration of the polymer. Then role of hydrogen bonding in this process, in the precipitation inhibition process. Nucleation is the first step for drug crystallization. We know inhibition of drug precipitation by polymers is due to suppression and a delay in the drug nucleation process, which is also known. Here, crystallization times were defined as the time interval when the crystals were first observed under the microscope. So how to know that precipitation started? So prepare the solution, make it become supersaturated solution. How to make it become supersaturated solution? You are preparing saturated solution in some organic solvent like ethanol or some other solvent, and you are adding that into biorelevant medium or some other medium where the drug precipitation takes place. When such a combination, when such situation is created, then precipitation takes place. The first appearance of the crystal must be able to be observed under the microscope. So that is called the crystallization time. Hydrogen bonds between drug molecules and the polymers increase the nucleation activation energy, leading to nucleation delay. The hydrogen bonds are formed between the drug molecules and the polymers. Because of this hydrogen bonding, nucleation activation energy is increased and therefore nucleation will be delayed. Nucleation takes place slowly. What is the case? Now we shall take an example one by one and we shall compare it with one another. The two examples taken are HPMC and PV. 1 minute. Okay. When does hydrogen bonding takes place? See, for if the drug has the carbonyl groups, which are hydrogen bond acceptors, and hydroxyl groups, hydrogen bond donors, then the drug can form hydrogen bonds. Now, in a HPMC, it has got a lot of hydroxyl groups, hydrogen bond donor groups, which are capable of hydrogen bonding. And PVP has only one carbonyl group, which is hydrogen bond acceptor. HPMC has got hydrogen bond donor. PVP has got hydrogen bond acceptor per monomer unit. And the example of the drug taken could be hydrocortisone. Hydrocortisone precipitation is inhibited by HPMC than PVP because hydrocortisone has got 3 hydrogen bond acceptors and 2 hydroxyl groups, hydrogen bond donor groups. So because of this, HPMC can better hydrogen bond form with the hydrocortisone when compared to the PVP, and therefore HPMC is a better PPI for hydrocortisone when compared to the PVP. Then, apart from nucleation, even crystal growth was inhibited by hydrogen bonding. We shall see. Salbutamol sulfate is an example. PVP is a polymer. Salbutamol sulfate is rich in hydrogen bond donor group. PVP has got hydrogen bond acceptor site. And therefore, PVP can hydrogen bond with the salbutamol sulfate, make the drug in the supersaturated solution longer when compared to the HPMC. So PVP has a higher propensity to form hydrogen bonds with the functional groups of salbutamol sulfate that are exposed at the crystal surface. Then the role of the surfactants as PPI. Surfactants delay precipitation of the drug from supersaturated solutions. Surfactants, when added at concentrations exceeding their CMC, their effect is good. Like increase the drug solubility, thereby reduce the rate of nucleation and crystal growth by decreasing the degree of supersaturation. So we have studied cresol with soap solution, where micellar solubilization takes place because of the formation of the micellase, the soap micellase. And because of the miscellany, the cresol solubility increased from 2 to 50%. In a similar manner, now the surfactants, when are added, they should be added above the CMC level. When they are added above the CMC level, their effect will be more, and the solubility increases, and the drug remains in the supersaturated state for long period. So surfactants improve the solvation of the dissolved drug molecule, thereby increasing the activation energy, which is required for the dissolution during nucleation and crystal growth. So surfactants increase the activation energy, which will not allow the drug to come out. Here is an example. Itraconazole is an example, and the surfactants used are TPGS, Cremophor, and polysorbate 20. Itraconazole is a drug which has got a solubility of only 7 microgram per ml. So its solubility, its capability to remain in the solution was tested when there is no surfactant is added. Its solubility is only 7 microgram per ml, but in the presence of the surfactants, polysorbate 20, its level is increased. Cremophor RH40, the level is increased. TPGS, again the level is increased to 13 microgram per ml, almost double. So double the concentration can be achieved with the presence of the surfactants, the other two that I'll explain afterwards. Then coming to the cyclodextrins, illustration of inclusion complexes and non-inclusion complexes of cyclodextrins. We know that the cyclodextrins form inclusion complexes and non-inclusion complexes, and by formation of these type of the complexes, the solubility of the drug increases, which makes the cyclodextrins make the drug to remain in the solution form for longer period. So solubilization capacity of the cyclodextrins may decrease the degree of supersaturation and thereby alter the precipitation kinetics in such a way the solution becomes metastable. Similar to the effect of HPMC, cyclodextrins may also interact with the drug molecules in the solution or with the growth sites on the crystal surface by means of hydrogen bonding. Even hydrogen bonding could also form with the cyclodextrin, which is very similar to the effect that we see with the HPMC. And similar to the surfactants, interaction with the cyclodextrin may improve the solvation of the dissolved drug molecules, thereby increasing the activation energy for dissolution during crystal growth. Very similar effect that of the surfactants can also be seen with the cyclodextrins. Now we shall see, we shall take the two cyclodextrins and observe what is their effect. The drug is itraconazole. Itraconazole drug is taken, and the two cyclodextrins were HP beta cyclodextrin and dimethyl beta cyclodextrin. See, the data are interesting, and they demonstrate two principles in the formation and stabilization of supersaturated drug solution. In the case of HP beta cyclodextrin, the complexation efficiency of the cyclodextrin is relatively low when compared to this, of course, such that relatively high levels of supersaturation are generated, which fall as a function of time. See, in the beginning, we can see the spring effect. Solubility is increased, but afterwards, supersaturation is maintained, but it is not sustained for a long time. Though it is sustained, it is to less extent. Here, this represents the crystalline drug without any cyclodextrin, and it represents with the cyclodextrin. So when compared to the crystalline compound solubility, we can see the spring effect, increased effect. And when compared to the crystalline compound without the cyclodextrin, we can see the effect HP beta cyclodextrin effect. So supersaturation effect is seen, and it is to some extent. But when compared with dimethyl beta cyclodextrin, complexation efficiency is significantly increased. The result is that level of supersaturation is lower, but generated metastable solution, which is stable for long time. You can see here, this is the drug with itraconazole with cyclodextrin, dimethyl beta cyclodextrin, and its spring level is good and parachute level is also good. But when you compare the two, spring level is good with HP beta cyclodextrin, very similar to dimethyl beta cyclodextrin. But parachute effect is not that good with HP beta cyclodextrin, but is good with the dimethyl beta cyclodextrin. So for itraconazole drug, this is the cyclodextrin that can better act as precipitation inhibitor. Then, what are the methods that are available for characterization of interactions and crystallization? So the different methods are reported in the articles. The methods like X-ray diffraction, DSC, Raman spectroscopy, all these methods are used in one or the other way for characterizing the interactions, for characterizing the crystallization process, for studying the solution characteristics, supersaturation, etc. But do you know, despite of all this, the mechanism of the drug precipitation inhibition is not fully understood. So screening for precipitation inhibitors is very much important. So screening, how can we screen the precipitation inhibitors? Supersaturation was created by a co-solvent or solvent quench based approach in which a solution of the drug in an organic solvent was added to the dissolution medium, which included the excipient of interest. See, now we have to add some other solvent. We are adding some other solvent into the saturated solution of the drug. When some other solvent was added, this solution contains the substance of interest, the PPI of interest. For experimental purpose, some concentration arbitrarily can be selected and it is taken. So when it is added, then supersaturation may lead to the formation of the precipitate. So that precipitate formation takes place, but in presence of PPI, whether precipitation starts or not, whether it continues or not, if it continues, at what rate it continues. It differs from one to another. So drug concentrations in presence and absence of excipients were assessed as a function of time. So every time we have to take the drug solution and we have to take the excipient. Excipient could be polymer or surfactant or cyclodextrin. So every time it should be taken and every combination should be tested. So with excipient and without excipient. And finally see which is the best. Is it a polymer or is it a surfactant or is it a cyclodextrin? And the result is different from one to another. But the duration of the effect is highly compound dependent. I'm repeatedly telling you this. So there is no fixed behavior. There is no fixed behavior. Say for certain drugs, some polymers, there is an inhibition effect, and for some other polymer will not show any inhibitory effect. And for the given drug, for the given surfactant, the concentration is different, and the difference in the concentration will give difference in the inhibition effect, and that the difference in the inhibition effect is even not directly related to the concentration of the excipient. So every time it should be studied and finally it should be decided. Although concentrations were typically lower in the presence of polymers, their stabilizing effect tended to last longer, but again this was very much compound related. I have been telling you, see the examples that I have shown you where increase in the PPI concentration increases the inhibition effect. But I'll show you some other examples where increase in the concentration of the PPI decreases the effect. Only to certain extent it changes, afterwards it will not change. I'll show you the example, you can understand the best. Precipitation inhibition should be assessed on individual drug excipient basis. Excipients that provided the best precipitation inhibition in screening may also give good bioavailability. So the reports say that good PPI selected for in vitro studies will also give good effect in vivo because the relation is already reported. So careful screening of the PPI is important. Then supersaturation in vivo. So the current research concerning the supersaturable drug delivery system, it mainly focuses on formulation development and in vitro evaluation of generation and stabilization of supersaturation. And therefore, in vivo assessment of intraluminal supersaturation is very difficult. See, in vitro study, yes, it is easy. It can be done. It can be done with the equipment that are available in our laboratory. But whether supersaturation is generated or not, whether it is created or not, in vivo, see, what we have to do there is we have to assess intraluminal supersaturation that might be possible by aspiration and analysis of gastrointestinal fluid. We have to aspirate the GI fluid. We have to analyze the GI fluid after intake of the dosage form, and it has not been investigated to date satisfactorily. Then we carry out the in vitro studies and we carry out in vivo bioavailability studies and others. Is there any relation between in vitro and in vivo correlation for this creating supersaturation and PPI effect? Yes, SDDS are indeed capable of generating an improved pharmacokinetic profile as compared to the conventional dosage formulation. Only a few studies provide that allow one to correlate varying supersaturation profiles in vitro with intestinal absorption characteristics in vivo. Let us take an example of the celecoxib. See, this celecoxib example is interesting. Crystalline salt form of the celecoxib combined with the precipitation inhibitors, and it is observed that a significant improvement in the intestinal absorption of the celecoxib in dogs. Fine. When AUC were recorded and Cmax were also recorded, and when these data were obtained upon absorption of 9 celecoxib formulations, they are correlated well with the AUC value corresponding to in vitro dissolution profile. So when in vitro studies were carried out, then in vivo studies were carried out for 9 celecoxib formulations, and in presence of this PPI, so there is a relation. And there is a correlation. So this suggests that rapid creation of high luminal concentration dictates the absorption of the celecoxib. Immediately, spring effect should be more, dictates the absorption of the celecoxib while maintaining the metastable zone of celecoxib supersaturation by PPI is only required for limited time period. The data show that you need not maintain parachute effect for longer. We have to achieve the spring effect, but parachute effect need not be maintained. So this is what is observed in vitro and is also observed in vivo. Another example is tacrolimus. Similar conclusions were drawn with respect to the absorption of tacrolimus in rats from nanostructured solid dispersions using different excipients. So when comparing the pharmacokinetic profiles of 4 formulations, one containing the surfactant as a stabilizer showed greatest extent of absorption. So that is what we wanted. That is what the parachute effect that we wanted from the surfactant, and that parachute effect was obtained from the tacrolimus when it was tested with the surfactant P407. In vitro, this formulation generated the highest maximum degree of supersaturation, but performed least optimally in stabilizing the supersaturated state. So, inhibition precipitation for more than 2 hours did not seem to enhance tacrolimus absorption. So, not required. We need not maintain supersaturated condition of tacrolimus for more than 2 hours. So this is another example where in situ study was carried out for the drug Amprenavir. And of course, across Charcot-2 monolayer in intestinal fluid. See here, the study is conducted in this manner. Saturated solution of the drug is taken and subjected for the transport study. Supersaturated solution is maintained and subjected for transport study. When saturated solution was taken, which is a lower concentration, the trend is like this. But when supersaturated solution was taken, because the drug is available at a higher concentration at the transport site, more the transport has taken place. Then, in situ study was also carried out for itraconazole from saturated solution and supersaturated solution. So when in situ studies were carried out for itraconazole, As long as the saturated solution was maintained, its transport was so much. But when super saturated solution was created, there is an enormous increase in the transport of the drug substance. So all these examples say that it is necessary to maintain super saturated solution at the transport site or at the absorption site, that is in the GI lumen, so that absorption rate increases. So we have to keep all these points in mind while developing the dosage formulations. I have some time now. Yeah, 460. And so keeping all these points in the mind, super saturable drug delivery systems should be developed. And there are certain SDDS, super saturable drug delivery systems, solid dispersion, sets, inclusion complexes, super saturated liposomes, nano drugs, novel drug carrier materials, etc. Let me take the first example, solid dispersion for the drug tacrolimus. When the tacrolimus solid dispersions were prepared and when they were subjected for the study, we can see the spring effect. See, when it was taken in the crystalline form, we can see the line at the bottom of the graph. It is nearer to the x-axis. But when it is prepared in the, when it is prepared in the solid dispersion form, immediately spring effect was seen. That spring effect was seen in all the three solid dispersions which are prepared from HPMC, PVP and PEZ 6000. But parachute effect, whether parachute effect is maintained, yes is the answer. But to the what extent it is maintained, it differs from one to another. See, parachute effect of PEG 6000 is like this. For the PVP, it is like this. And for HPMC, it is maximum. So from this result, we can understand that the three carriers used to prepare the solid dispersions will definitely give spring effect, but parachute effect will also be given, but it differs from one to another. And the same preparation, tacrolimus, when it is given for in vitro study, in vivo studies, where the trends obtained are like this. See, you can see the bottommost line, crystalline tacrolimus powder, when it is given, it was showing the trend in this manner. But when the solid dispersion of tacrolimus, which is prepared with the HPMC, is given, its AUC is increased. So solid dispersions of the drug substances, they not only give the spring effect, but also gives the parachute effect. But to get the proper parachute effect, we have to select a proper polymer, which is evidenced with this example. Sets, self-emulsifying drug delivery systems. So they can also be prepared. Here, paclitaxel, the drug is taken and is subjected to the in vitro study. When it is subjected to the in vitro study, so without HPMC, its trend is in this manner. But with HPMC, we can see more of the spring effect and also of the parachute effect. But in the parachute effect, it is sustained for 120 hours. And when the same paclitaxel was given for in vivo studies in the rats at the dose of 10 mg per kg body weight, we can see without HPMC, the line is almost very nearer to the x-axis. But when it is prepared in the sets form with the HPMC, we could see the spring effect and also the parachute effect. We can observe the parachute effect for sufficiently good period. For 2 hours, it is maximum effect. And afterwards, it is sustained up to 8 hours. Even if you take 8 hours, yes, there is an increase. And if you observe the total increase in the AUC, we can observe the increase in the AUC by 4.7 folds. Nanoparticles, more focus was given by the yesterday speaker, Dr. Giriraj Kulkarni. Conventional solid dispersion often contain microparticles. The use of the nanoparticles may further enhance the capacity to generate supersaturation. Itraconazole was the drug, and itraconazole supersaturation was observed in the acidic medium from freeze-dried nanoparticles, which was stabilized by surface-located HPMC. So, spring effect was obtained with the formulation, and the parachute effect is with the HPMC. And it is compared with the solid dispersion that was prepared from only HPMC. Yes, there is a difference. After 20 minutes of dissolution, supersaturation ratio amounted to 64 from nanoparticle, and the value was 14 with the solid dispersion. So there is an enormous increase in the supersaturation ratio with the nanoparticles for itraconazole. So we studied all this. We finally took up the work and we worked on paliperidone. This example is our research work. See, we selected the excipients, we selected the co-formers, and we prepared the co-crystals. Again, here we applied the knowledge of the solubility parameter. We calculated the knowledge of, we calculated the solubility parameter of the drug and also solubility parameter of the co-former. And when they are very nearer to one another, then better co-crystal forms, which was evidenced in the reports. We have taken several co-formers and we prepared several co-crystals and subjected to the studies, in vitro studies. And from in vitro studies, we understood that the co-crystals prepared from PHBA, para-hydroxybenzoic acid, it has shown very good result. And then we subjected paliperidone crystals alone and paliperidone co-crystals formed from PHBA and paliperidone co-crystals prepared in presence of HPMs. All these three were subjected to the bioavailability studies. When they are subjected to the bioavailability studies, the trends are in this manner and the values are shown in the table. See, there is a rise in the Cmax from 17 to 22 with co-crystals, from 22 to 29 with HPMC. And AUC was also increased from 560 to 744 with the co-crystals and from 560 to 962 in presence of the HPMC. So when bioavailability was observed, bioavailability was increased by 2.05. Relative bioavailability of paliperidone prepared in the crystal form in presence of the HPMC, it is enormously, not enormously, it is increased to the some extent. It was initial study that we have carried out and we have got, there is an improvement of the bioavailability. Much more studies are required by taking the different concentrations of the HPMCs and by taking the different types of the PPIs. If the study is conducted, probably that will explore the PPI effect of the different inhibitors in enhancing the bioavailability of the drug substances. They are my colleagues who reviewed the entire presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Indeed, a very exhaustive and very excellent presentation.
Thank you, madam.
And whatever your work you have been doing in the college, you have presented most of your work in this. Since sir is dealing with all those theoretical calculations for this spring and parachute effect using different equations for calculation of this. So any questions are there, please type it in the chat box. Any questions from the delegates? So I have one question. You have discussed about supersaturation assay.
Yes, madam.
I had a little bit ambiguity, like how it has to be done.
Yes, madam. Madam, there are the different methods. I'll tell you one simple method. See, take a solution of the drug, saturated solution of the drug.
Yes.
Make it supersaturated. How to make it supersaturated? By adding another solvent. That another solvent is miscible with the solvent, but insoluble for the drug substance. So that second solvent added makes the dissolved drug to come out. When the dissolved drug comes out, it is called supersaturated state. So when the supersaturated state is formed, then the drug particles tend to come out. They'll be in the beginning in the molecular form, and afterwards clusters, embryos, nuclei, crystal growth will take place. Now we have to take the sample at a different interval and determine absorbance in the simple method what we do in the UV. So take the sample and note down the absorbance of the different intervals. In the beginning, if you take, we can get more absorbance. After some time, the absorbance value decreases because the drug gets precipitated. Even though the precipitated drug is present in the solution, that drug will not absorb any UV light, that we know. So take the sample at different periods and subject them to determine absorbance in the UV so that readings decrease. Readings decrease over time. If we carry out this study with the PPI, we can keep the cuvette inside the instrument itself. Keep the cuvette inside the instrument itself and observe over the period after 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes, if you note down, there will be decrease in the readings. So that decrease in the readings tell us that precipitation is taking place. This can also be done in nephelometry. In fact, danazol work is done in nephelometry only. So there, what they do is they create supersaturated solution and they put it, they put the sample in the nephelometry and they keep continuously recording the turbidity. So they continuously record the turbidity. They can increase in the turbidity concentration can be noticed. So in this method, in this manner, we can carry out the assay.
Yes, sir. So one more question. In one of the slides, you said that addition of an API with HPMC increased the solubility
Yes.
by 10 times. Now, what about the efficacy, sir?
Yes, madam. So many examples. So many examples say that addition of the HPMC will increase solubility and it will also maintain supersaturation. Because I explained the mechanism, hydrogen bonding takes place.
Yes.
HPMC has got more of the donor groups, and if the drug has got receptor groups, then hydrogen bonding takes place and it makes the drug undergo solution. Yes, madam. It is also a solubilizing agent.
Yes, sir. So one more
And
thing.
the level of the solubilization differs. The level of the solubilization differs. See, 1 or 2 examples that I had shown you say that increase in the concentration of the HPMC increases inhibition effect, but reverse effect is also seen with the other examples. In the other examples, increase in the concentration of HPMC decreases the inhibition effect. For a drug of 1 gram, 1 gram of the drug taken, 5% of HPMC is taken. 5% weight by volume of HPMC when is taken in 1 gram of the preparation and when it is put in 500 ml of the dissolution medium, then the concentration of the PPI is 0.02%. 0.02%. And therefore, for our study, we take the concentration less than 0.02 and more than 0.02. Minimum of 0.01 and maximum of 0.1 is selected, and different concentrations are selected, taken, and the study is carried out. So when different concentrations are taken with the lowest solubility, with the lowest concentration of the polymer, more inhibition was seen. With the increased concentration of the PPI, inhibition was decreased. That is what the reports say, that there is no general rule as for to explain the PPI effect of either polymer or surfactants. And therefore, case by case, we have to decide whether it acts as a PPI or not.
Yes. So, sir, for every drug, there will be a different concentration to be used depending on its
Yes.
number of hydrogen bonds taking place and all those things. It matters. So what are the functional group presence and what type of bond is taking place, all that matters. There's one more
Yes.
question, sir.
Yes, madam.
drugs which are undergo active transport mechanism, can this type of SDDS be beneficial?
Active transport.
Active transport.
Energy dependent.
Yes.
Again, madam, this is mainly for those drug substances which has got poor absorption behavior. Poor absorption behavior is because the drug is not available. So the drug is, even though the tablet is given, even though capsule is consumed, but still bioavailability is less. So all these days our efforts are to increase the solubility, to increase the dissolution. But the other way of thinking is, by increasing the solubility or by increasing the dissolution, we are not getting the result. We are not getting the result because the drug is undergoing precipitation. So even in vivo, we have to keep the drug not undergoing precipitation, which can be done by PPI. So the drug is made available at the site of absorption at high concentration. So that is the main concept.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you for a wonderful session and a new emerging trend, we can say. It's a very old technique, but still we need to realize that such type of very minor changes what we can do, and the therapeutic dosage form becomes more and more efficient, and these things will help us to design a better drug delivery system. I thank you,
Yes.
sir, for such a very informative session. And Giriraj sir had joined the session. He has conveyed that the session was very interactive and very more knowledgeable. For the whole session, sir had joined. So he just conveyed this message to you. Thank you.
Okay,
I thank all the delegates.
Thank you, madam.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Yes.
To be a part of this program.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And sessions are going very good. Even I attended the sessions. They are very informative. It must be definitely useful to all the participants. It is all up to the participants how best they use the resource persons.
So tomorrow, kindly join. We have 2 sessions. One very interesting session we have. We are discussing on the pet drug delivery for animals. That is a growing global market.
Okay.
So there is one multinational company called as Elanco. So Badrinath DR will be giving this topic tomorrow. And we have one more session. The speaker is from China, Zahir Abbas. So he'll be speaking about the recent emerging trends. So kindly join the session for tomorrow. And morning we have one yoga session also by Bhaskar sir. Yes.
At what time, madam?
It is at 9:30. So in Atal, it is mandatory that we need to keep such one session. So so we have kept those sessions. Please join, sir, tomorrow. I'll be sharing.
Nice, madam. Thank you. Please share the link, madam.
Yes.
We will join.
Yes, sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you all the delegates
very
for
much,
your.
madam.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you all the delegates for being for the whole day today. I think so. There's a problem with the link. There's a problem with the link. I will share the link. I'll share the link once again to you. I'll share the link once again to you, and it will be personally shared on your emails also. Is that okay? So tomorrow's session will again join back at 9:15. For tomorrow's session, we'll join back at 9:15. Kindly join, all of you, it request to join at 9:15. Okay, so that we can start the session at 9:30. The links will be shared to you. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, sir. So we'll end the meeting now. We'll end the meeting for today. Thank you.